Breaking right now, and I need you to stop everything you are doing, because what just happened in the last few hours is the single most explosive development of this entire 9-day war. Iran has chosen a new supreme leader. The 88-member Assembly of Experts, the clerical body that holds the constitutional power to pick who rules the Islamic Republic, has reached its decision. The man has been chosen. The votes have been cast, and yet his name has not been spoken out loud. Not on state television, not in an official announcement, not anywhere. Because the moment his name becomes public, Israel's defense minister has promised in an official statement to kill him. Not a threat buried in a classified briefing, a public post on social media, a warning to the entire world. Any leader selected by Iran will be a certain target for assassination, no matter his name, no matter where he hides. Iran chose its new supreme leader in secret inside a bunker while bombs were still falling on Tehran. And the man they chose is the dead man's son. His name is Mojtaba Khamenei. He is 56 years old. He has never held elected office. He is not a senior cleric by traditional standards. He has spent his entire life operating in the shadows of his father's absolute power. And the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards who control Iran's missiles, its military, its economy, and now apparently its political succession, forced him into that chair with bombs exploding outside and clerics being pressured over the phone to cast their votes. This is the most extraordinary political moment in the Middle East since 1979, and this is day 9. Let me give you the full picture because the details of how this happened are unlike anything in modern political history. Start with the mechanics of the succession. The Assembly of Experts has reached a majority consensus on Iran's next supreme leader. Assembly member Ayatollah Mohammad Mahdi Miri confirmed the decision, though he noted that some obstacles still needed to be resolved before the official announcement could be made. A candidate was picked based on Khamenei's own advice that Iran's top leader should be hated by the enemy rather than praised by it. One senior cleric made a statement that cuts to the heart of what is happening here. He said of the chosen successor, "Even the great Satan has mentioned his name." Read that again. Iran looked at every candidate available to them. They looked at senior clerics with decades of religious authority. They looked at experienced political figures who have navigated the system for 30 years. And they chose the man that America had already publicly declared unacceptable. Trump said weeks ago that Mojtaba Khamenei was an unacceptable choice for him. Iran's response was to choose him. Anyway, that is not a concession. That is the most defiant political act possible from a government being bombed into rubble. Now, I want to explain who Mojtaba Khamenei actually is because most of America does not know this man, and they need to. Mojtaba Khamenei has long been considered one of the most influential figures inside Iran's ruling system. Despite rarely appearing in public or holding formal political office for years, he operated from within the office of the supreme leader, serving as a gatekeeper and power broker around his father. He has also effectively run the Supreme Leader's office for at least the past 2 decades and is widely seen as Ali Khamenei's closest confidant. Unlike his father, who was elevated in 1989 after years of clerical and political experience, Mojtaba has never held public office and is not a senior cleric. Yet his influence behind the scenes, his close ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the reported pressure exerted by the guards on the Assembly of Experts ensured his selection. Dr. Eric Mandel, director of the Middle East Political and Information Network, told Iran International that Mojtaba has long been a central but opaque figure in Tehran's power structure. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, has long operated behind the scenes in Tehran, building deep ties with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and consolidating influence within the regime's power structure. He is widely viewed as one of the architects of the regime's repression. And here is the detail that makes this succession historically unique and politically explosive inside Iran. The Islamic Republic has long criticized hereditary rule, portraying itself as a just alternative to monarchy. Yet, Mojtaba's succession represents precisely that, a dynastic handover. This contradiction is not lost on Iranians, many of whom see the move as undermining the revolution's founding principles. The government that overthrew a king and built its entire identity around rejecting monarchy just handed power from father to son in the middle of a war. The hypocrisy of that moment is not lost on the Iranian people. Now let me tell you how the actual vote happened because the process is as extraordinary as the result. Starting early on March 3rd, IRGC commanders pressured Assembly of Experts members to vote for Mojtaba Khamenei with repeated contacts and psychological and political pressure. A first electoral session was held online. Assembly leaders stated that the election had to be held quickly because of the war. Members described the atmosphere of the online meeting as unnatural. Those who presented arguments against Mojtaba Khamenei were given limited time to speak. Discussion was cut off and a vote was held. Israel bombed Iran's Assembly of Experts as they were in a meeting to elect the next supreme leader. Let that sit for one moment. Israel bombed the building where the clerics were voting on who would lead Iran next. The bombs hit after the votes had been cast, but before the count was completed. This is not a metaphor. This is not a movie. This is what actually happened on day 5 of this war. Israel tried to kill the succession process itself. The IRGC is insisting on the swift appointment of the next leader of the Islamic Republic after Ali Khamenei's death. According to sources speaking on condition of anonymity, the remaining IRGC command structure is seeking to finalize the decision within the coming hours. Reports indicate that following the killing of Khamenei, disarray and confusion have intensified within the Islamic Republic's security and military structures. Sources say parts of the chain of command have been disrupted with the transmission of orders and operational coordination facing difficulties. Some military commanders and lower-ranking personnel have reportedly refrained from reporting to their bases and military centers with concerns over continued U.S. and Israeli strikes. So here is the full picture of what Iran's new leadership actually looks like. The IRGC is in partial collapse. Some commanders are not showing up to their posts. The chain of command is broken in multiple places. The man chosen to lead is hidden in a bunker somewhere because announcing his name is a death sentence. And the organization that forced his election is now running a war on Wave 29 while simultaneously trying to hold its own military structure together. Now, let me give you Israel's response because it is the most direct assassination threat made by a democracy against a sitting head of state in modern history. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, threatened to assassinate any Iranian leader picked to succeed Khamenei. Any leader selected by the Iranian terror regime to continue leading the plan for Israel's destruction, threatening the United States, the free world, and countries in the region, and suppressing the Iranian people will be a certain target for assassination, no matter his name or where he hides, Katz said in a post on X. No matter his name, no matter where he hides, Israel is not saying it will consider targeting Iran's new leader. Israel is saying the decision is already made. The moment Mojtaba Khamenei is announced as supreme leader, he becomes the primary target of the most precise air force in the Middle East. His father is dead. His mother died of injuries from the same strike on March 2nd. The FAR's news agency announced that Kham's daughter, son-in-law, grandchild, and daughter-in-law were also killed in the original strikes. Mojtaba Khamenei watched his entire family get killed in one morning, and then the IRGC handed him the most dangerous job in the world. Now I want to explain why this succession crisis does not end this war. It may have just made it impossible to end quickly, because here is the structural reality that nobody in Washington wants to say out loud. The tension between hardliners and reformists will not disappear with KA's death. Moments of succession tend to strengthen conservative and security-driven factions, at least initially. Any internal debate about the country's direction is likely happening quietly and within narrow elite circles rather than in public view. What that means in plain English is this. The IRGC chose Mojtaba specifically because he is their man. He has spent decades building relationships inside the guards. He is not going to negotiate with Washington. He is not going to accept Trump's unconditional surrender demand. He is the candidate of the people who are firing the missiles, and they just put him in the chair. Trump's position has not softened. He urged Iranians publicly to take over their own government. Trump said in a video on Truth Social, "When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations." He also called on the IRGC to lay down its weapons or face certain death. So Trump is telling the Iranian people to revolt while simultaneously bombing the country. And the IRGC's response to that is to install a new supreme leader who is their own creation and then launch Wave 29 of missile strikes. Trump is weighing whether to support armed groups seeking to overthrow Iran's ruling establishment. Though no final decision has been made on providing weapons, training, or intelligence assistance, reports said Trump has held discussions with Kurdish leaders and other regional figures. However, U.S. officials told the outlet that the administration has yet to settle on a concrete strategy or identify a clear successor to lead Iran if the regime collapses. There is no plan for what comes after. The Pentagon is bombing. The IRGC is firing back. A new supreme leader is hiding in a bunker, waiting to see if his announcement becomes his death warrant. And Washington has discussions with Kurdish leaders, but no strategy and no identified successor. That is the state of day 9. Now, let me give you the human dimension of this war because the numbers are no longer abstract. By March 5th, the World Health Organization had identified 13 Iranian health infrastructure sites that had been hit during the war, as well as 1 health facility in Lebanon. 13 hospitals and health facilities struck in 5 days. The WHO does not make those findings lightly. Those are documented strikes on buildings where sick and wounded people were being treated. Iran struck civilian infrastructure in Israel, Kuwait, the UAE, Oman, and Azerbaijan. Britain's Akrotiri and Diyala military base on Cyprus was struck by a drone. A British military base on European Union soil was struck by an Iranian drone. That has happened. That is confirmed. The war has physically touched European territory, and the implications of that have not been fully processed by any Western government yet. And then there is the Iranian street. When Khamenei died, something complicated and extraordinary happened. Many Iranian civilians went out to celebrate in the streets. Elsewhere in Iran, thousands gathered on streets in mourning, and pro-Iranian protests and riots occurred in multiple countries. A country divided between grief and relief, between mourning a leader and celebrating his removal. And now the IRGC has installed that dead leader's son as his replacement and is daring the population to object while bombs are still falling. The IRGC is also reportedly deeply worried about what happens when daylight breaks in Tehran. According to Iran international sources, the IRGC is deeply concerned that once daylight breaks on Sunday, people across various parts of the country may take to the streets, potentially triggering a new wave of gatherings. The security organization that controls the new supreme leader is afraid of its own population. That is the regime that Trump is trying to force into unconditional surrender. Here is where everything stands on day 9. Mojtaba Khamenei has been chosen as Iran's new supreme leader by an assembly that was pressured by the IRGC, held its first vote online while bombs fell on KM, and has not yet made the announcement public because doing so may be a death sentence. Israel has promised to kill whoever is named. The IRGC is holding the government together while its own commanders are not showing up to their posts. Trump has no plan for post-regime Iran. The war has touched European soil. 13 health facilities inside Iran have been struck, and the man who just inherited the most dangerous job in modern history watched his father, mother, sister, brother-in-law, niece, and nephew all die in a single morning 8 days ago. Mojtaba Khamenei survived every airstrike. He survived the attempt on his life. He survived the bombing of the Assembly of Experts in Qom. He survived to be handed a country on fire, a military in partial disarray, and a death warrant from the Israeli Defense Ministry. Whether he announces himself tomorrow or waits a week, whether Israel finds him or cannot reach him, whether the IRGC holds together or fractures under the pressure of a war it may have underestimated, every one of those answers changes what this region looks like for the next 50 years. The Islamic Republic began with a revolution that overthrew a king. It may end with a king's son on its throne. History does not lack for irony. Or subscribe right now and turn on notifications because the announcement is coming. When Mojtaba Khamenei's name drops officially, this channel will be the first place that tells you exactly what it means, what Israel does next, what Trump says in response, and whether the IRGC's bet on the dead man's son was the smartest move they ever made or the last one. Subscribe. Drop your comment below. Do you think Mojtaba Khamenei survives his first week as supreme leader? And do you think the Iranian people accept him or take to the streets? Tell me what you think.